So Hank, 4.5 month old pity puppy.
Yeah, he's about 5 months now, but yeah.
Okay, and it kind of just seems you're wanting. Well, there's some minor behavior stuff, maybe some potty training, but essentially obedience.
Yeah, I mean trying to go up the stairs right now. We call him to come back, and it's just kind of constant. So reinforcing boundaries, jumping. He jumps on lots of people. He's just excited. He's sweet. He's not aggressive at all, but he's little now, and he's gonna get bigger, And so we want him to not be a jumper. What else was it? We said, oh, he like kind of bites. I mean, he bites more than he should, which can only get worse. What else?
Running at other dogs to the dog park.
Oh yeah, his excitement leads him to trouble potentially.
Okay. Have you tried anything yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we started watching some dog training videos. We haven't tried anything formal, but just kind of doing more boundaries with him. Like we used to let him on the couch. We stopped doing that, but that's taking some adjusting too. So that's kind of our fault. We've been exercising now that it's a little warmer. We've been exercising him more in the morning, and that also kind of helps with his just general energy level throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. And he's 24 pounds.
Yeah, last time we weighed him, he was 24.
He's probably about 30 now.
Okay, he's 30. Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds small for a 4.5-year-old or month old.
This is him.
Where'd you get him from?
A friend of mine.
A friend of yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they breed him, or was it like an accidental thing, or?
I think he breeds them.
Okay, and how are the parents?
As far as
behavior, they're social dogs.
I don't know how social they are. I think they probably aren't that social.
Okay.
They live in Wisconsin, so we don't.
Okay.
We don't see them very much.
Anything else?
No, I mean, it's mainly just wanting him. There's another dog at home who's 13. She's half pit, half greyhound, and she is a very sweet dog, but she's nice to Hank, but she's not good with other dogs. So we're unclear what he's learning from her. They play together, and she's only had a couple of scary episodes with him, but they play together, and she's getting used to him. And so that's not generally an issue, but she's not dog friendly. And so they sort of go up to the front fence and bark at dogs together. And so
sure.
I don't know what they're saying to the dogs. So what he's learning.
Okay. And then what kind of training are you seeking? Is it like the puppy training or more advanced training?
More like puppy training. I mean, just want him to be more responsive when we call him, and just a little bit more disciplined in general.
Okay.
He's a city dog, so we're not planning on like letting him run too wild, other than like at dog parks and stuff.
Okay. So let me just
be like a city dog.
Understand this correctly. You booked the consultation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just because I have a puppy trainer, and I was just making sure I didn't accidentally hop on one of her calls. Okay, so for Hank here, with at his age, because I train puppies, but I train puppies to an advanced level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And like for instance, we had a 4-month-old Doberman puppy that came for a 4-week board and train. She just left this past weekend. She was here for a month. Mm-hmm. And we did complete off-leash training with her. Okay, so she left here at 5 months, but she's already e-collar trained. She's off-leash trained. The owner can take her wherever now. Okay. So with puppy training, there's 2 approaches here. if you're doing just strictly puppy training, which is simple, it's crate training, it's potty training, it's, you know, trying to prevent or address separation anxiety, which is the whining in the crate that you mentioned in what I have here. And like real basic general obedience, okay, using food. That's your typical puppy training stuff.
Okay.
It's nothing, the food stuff that we would cover or that you would cover is nothing that would actually, in my opinion, be functional in real life. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you took Hank to the dog park, he's still going to run the dogs overexcitedly. If you tell him to sit outside and there's dogs walking around, he's still going to be a puppy, like, what's going on? Okay. Because it's real basic kindergarten type stuff. Okay. Not until a puppy is 6 months do I typically do advanced training. Okay. Now, this is all dependent on the owner. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying typically. Okay. So if it's puppy training, that's what you would work with Maddie. Okay.
Okay.
She's my puppy trainer. It would be over Zoom. I'm sorry.
Oh, he's making he said you made a side comment about my name being
Her name's Maggie.
Maggie, sure. So with Maddie, it's all our puppy stuff is done over Zoom because it's so simple. And you know, it's mainly a lot of FYI. You know, potty train the puppy, crate train the puppy, avoiding the things that most people do that they shouldn't be doing. You know, and like minor behavioral stuff. And then like, okay, this is how you teach sit with food. This is how you teach down, right? Whatever we would cover within that time frame, but it's really targeted towards behavior. Okay. But we can only do so much behavior. So if I have a puppy that's like legitimately biting the owner, because that happens, but where it's not puppy biting, it's legit like aggressive type biting. That's not something I would do over Zoom because that's more that's more advanced, right? They would want to do in person. But if you're looking for just general typical puppy training stuff, then that's with Maddie, and that's super simple. Okay. Now, if you're wanting to learn about more advanced training, where like I did with Azula, the Doberman, where we trained Hank to be as advanced in his obedience as you would like him to be, then we talk about e-collar and prong collar. Okay.
We don't know what e-collar and prong collar are. So
prong collar is the spiky looking tool, training tool. You see some dogs that wear it, right? It's the metal one. And people look at it and they think it's like a medieval torture device. And it was designed to mimic a dog bite. So if Hank does something to a dog at the dog park and that dog disagrees with it or does not want Hank to, like, for instance, jump on him, even as a puppy, they would just bite him. Okay. It does not mean that that dog is aggressive. That dog is simply establishing a boundary with Hank and saying, hey, you can't jump on me. Okay. So the prong collar essentially allows a human to recreate or mimic a dog bite through this training tool. Okay. And the way we apply it is different than what people think we do. You know, I think people think when they see these tools, because they look menacing, they think that we just put it on them and we're like yanking the puppy all over the place. What we do is we have to do, with a puppy this young, we would have to do pressure conditioning. Okay. Which is you teach Hank how to give into the pressure. So we give slight pressure, and when he moves with it, we would feed him. Okay. So he goes, oh, when I feel this and I go with it, it goes away, and then I get a treat. Okay. Because a dog's first instinct when they feel pressure, especially puppies, because puppies aren't meant to have things around their neck. Dogs aren't meant to have leashes. Okay. So that's why a lot of puppies, when they're really young, when owners try to walk them even on a regular leash, they'll flail and yip and yell and roll around and stuff. It's because they're not meant to have that. So they don't know what it is. So we have to condition them. So we put the pressure on the dog gives into the pressure, we feed, so they go, okay, I feel it, I go with it, it goes away, and I get something. Okay. And that's what we call pressure conditioning. So we teach the puppy or dog that the prong collar is a line of communication, as opposed to this thing that I'm just going to yank whenever you do something I don't like. Okay. Now, can you do that approach? Technically, yes. But it's not without reason. If Hank, for instance, as an example, were to lunge and bark at another dog, okay, most people tend to excuse it because it's a puppy. But if it goes unaddressed for too long, it can become dog reactivity, which then can potentially become dog aggression. Okay, because he's going that first year of his life, always being pulled back and barking and lunging and stuff, and it creates a lot of agitation and frustration. And every time he sees a dog, he starts to create this association that eventually he goes, "Well, I don't like dogs now." Okay, so that behavior we would want to correct, right? Because remember, if Hank did that to another dog and they disagree with it, they would just bite him, regardless of whether or not they know each other. Okay, so the prong collar would essentially allow me or whoever's using the tool to correct the dog for that behavior. Okay, to teach them that, hey, this is not acceptable. So it doesn't become practiced and rehearsed where it becomes a bigger problem in the future. Okay. With the prong collar, it's a great tool, but it's limited to only on leash, so to speak, meaning once you remove the leash, Hank will learn, oh, we're no longer connected. So if I'm playing with my friends, you can't make me come back, right? Because there's no means of making him return. We're completely off leash. I'd have to go and grab him or chase him around the park, right? But there's nothing saying that when I go, Hank, come, that he has to do it. Does that make sense? The e-collar or remote collar is what people know more commonly as a shock collar, which is an inappropriate term, okay? Because you're not shocking your dog. You're not electrocuting your dog. It's a miniaturized TENS unit. They use the technology on humans. If you go to chiropractors and physical therapists, they have them in their offices. You can even go to Walgreens and CVS and go in the back section and you'll see what looks like a little bone. And you put it on your back and it moves your back muscles to either relieve back pain or ease muscle tension. Okay, so it's the same technology. It's just the muscle stimulator. There's not a current running through the body. It's not like sticking your finger in an outlet. It's a centralized current that only stimulates the muscle that it's making contact with. Okay, now with puppies, it's perfectly safe to use. I have an 8-pound Chihuahua that's trained on an e-collar. He's fully off leash trained. We just trained a Zula who came in at 4 months for a month. She did 1 week of pressure work with the prong, and then we transitioned her to e-collar. She did 3 weeks of e-collar, and then she went home on Saturday. So now her training is she's trained for life. Okay, like unless her owner needs to do a tune-up, or unless, because you guys aren't dog trainers, so like typically the average dog owner will we teach them the correct thing and then they misremember it and then he practices it incorrectly and then they untrain the dog, right? So then we have to tweak things. So, but that's not because of the training, it's because of the owner and incorrectly applying things. Okay, but essentially her dog is trained off leash and her puppy is trained for life now. So with remote collar, the reason why I train on it, all my dogs and puppies over 6 months are trained on e-collar, okay, is because it's the only tool, in my opinion, that gives you or can guarantee you as close to 100% reliability on your recall, okay? So if you're at the park and there's no fence or anything like that, and Hank is running around, and then a dog decides to run out the park and Hank chases after that dog, you have a means of making him return. Okay, so if you were to call him and he's like, no, this is too much fun, I'm going to keep going. Mm-hmm. Even if you have chicken, he's like, no, this is more fun than chicken. Mm-hmm. You have a means of making him return. Okay, so the reason why I insist on this tool is because it's easy for owners to learn. It's very effective. It gives you applicable obedience outside right off the bat. You just have to learn and practice and train. And it's meant to be, functional no matter the setting. If you're at the dog park, if you're at the dog beach, if you're at a forest preserve and Hank is running off leash, you can go to restaurants and have your dog laying down at your feet for 2 hours. It's meant to allow you to do more things for your dog, with your dog. It's not that you're always using it. Okay. It's not that you're always having to press the button. If you've done the training correctly and you've practiced, like we say, it's there as a reinforcer. Okay. So people always wonder, well, if the training, after training, when does the collar go away? Or if the training is so good, why do I need the collar after training, right? And one big reason is dogs aren't humans. You can decide one day you want to learn how to sing, right? And then go on Google, find a singing teacher, interview some people, go like, I like this one the most, and then do that, right? Or you can decide maybe if you had a bad habit like smoking every day and you smoke a pack a day or something, you can wake up and decide, you know what, I'm going to quit smoking now and just start doing that. Dogs don't do that. Hank won't wake up one day and go like, you know what, you've put a lot of time in training me. I'm going to do that. I'm going to listen to you all the time, no matter what. He's not going to do that. Okay. Dogs are reactive. They respond to what's going on within the environment in that given moment. So if Hank is running with his friends off leash and I have a very high reward for him, I'm like, hey, Hank, come here. And he looks at it and he goes, no. And he does his own thing, right? He's not going to sit there and go like, you know what? I want to make you happy today. So I'm going to come to you and get that chicken too, right? So we don't have an ability to make him return. With the remote collar, when it's present, he's going to go, when you call him, there shouldn't be any delay. He should just return, period. But he's a dog, he's an animal, he can think otherwise. So if he goes, well, what happens if I don't? I have a means of making him return. Okay. So it's kind of like me growing up, my mom was super strict. I was raised old school, I was spanked. So then it would like, she would always say like, this is not a request. Like I'm telling you to do it, right? Like go wash the dishes. Otherwise I'm going to spank you. Like, okay, well, I don't want to get spanked. So I'm just going to do the dishes. Like I was told, right? It's when we're working with the e-collar, it's not so much as a punisher. It's been conditioned. It's a line of communication. But like, if he's really like dogs, trust me, dog logic and human logic is not the same. Okay. If he's like, nah, like I want to do this, and you keep going up in the collar. So my collar goes 0 to 127, to give you an example, in increments of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127. And one of my clients, her dog is about 2 years old. They've already had one board and train that didn't work and another trainer that didn't work either. Okay. They're doing training with me now. And she was at Oz Park with her dog and he was playing with another dog. And he's a pit mix and he got too intense in his play. Okay. And he's chasing this other dog. And then it was making the other dog owners uncomfortable. Okay. So she's tapping her dog, calling him, and she had to go to 85. And on 85, he finally, boom, came right back to her. Okay. Because they're still, we taught recall about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Recall takes not a long time, but like at least a couple of months to teach. So she's still early within her process. But she had to go to 85 because in that moment, her dog was thinking, no, this is more rewarding. So we had to override the reward. Does that make sense? So when people look at these tools, they think, oh my God, you're torturing the dog and stuff. And I go, no, dogs bite each other. This is the dog bite. Okay. This is a dog that didn't want to go in the kennel. That's it. Okay. He was here for a 4-week board and train. It was the first day he was here. I wasn't even trying to put him in the kennel. I just wanted to see if he was going to fit because he was a Great Dane. I'm like, I don't know if we have a big enough kennel, so I was going to go buy one. He'd never been in the kennel before. So when I go to put him in, he went, I'm not going in there. And he just looked up and boom, bit my hand, 10 stitches. Okay. And I don't take it personally. He was here yesterday for daycare. But that's dog. You know,
I got a question for you. Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So my other dog, she got dog aggressive between like a year and a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So before that, like she could go to the dog park and she was just a puppy and, you know, never showed any kind of sign of any aggression. Mm-hmm. So if we train Hank now, whichever level or whatever, mm-hmm. is it like possible that since he just hasn't had that whatever hormone or whatever come out yet, to make him aggressive? And I know some of it's genetics and all that, but I guess what I'm asking is like, we get him trained, he's a well-behaved puppy and this and that, but then, you know, still at, you know, a year and a half or whatever, we take him to the dog park and he just becomes very dog aggressive and that's just how he is.
there's a lot of variables there. Okay. So one thing is at 6 months and a year, so that actually makes sense for your other dog. At 6 months and a year are two pivotal psychological shifts for dogs. Okay. Think of 6 months as terrible two's brain, if you know about kids, and then teenager body. Okay. So that's where puppies are kind of tall and lanky, kind of like when we're teenagers. And then at a year, you get teenager brain, adult body. And then at 2 years, you get adult brain. Okay. Is not uncommon where, like, for instance, I had a couple, they had a beautiful German Shepherd puppy, 2 months, quietest puppy. Okay. They're like, Jesse, this dog is great. She's quiet, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, she's only 2 months. I'm like, you're defining your dog now, and she's only 2 months, right? And I go, wait till she turns 6 months. And at 6 months, like a typical German Shepherd, she started barking at everything, okay, because the brain shifted. So with Hank, he could get 6 months and a year, right? And you see nothing. He's great. He's social and stuff, right? And then at 2 years, he's still social. He's a great puppy. He's a great dog. And then a dog attacks him at the dog park. And the next day, dog aggressive. Okay. It's super common. And a lot of times when dogs have a negative experience at 6 months and a year, most of the time when I deal with dog aggression, it's a dog that was attacked by another dog around 6 months and a year. And then the next day, it's like a light switch. All of a sudden, they're dog reactive and they're dog aggressive.
How do you prevent?
You can't.
Like, you can't, because he's been bit by the other dog twice, but I mean, he's only 5. This was a while ago. He still loves her more than anything in the world. Mm-hmm. So,
it's not that. So you take, the way I look at it is, you can do everything by the book. Okay. You could do remote training, you could do all the pressure work stuff, and you could do food-based training, and you could do all the things by the book. And then something happens in life and it just flips your dog. It happens. So I always tell people, don't worry so much about being right or doing everything perfectly, because it's not going to happen. Okay. You do the best that you can. And then if it happens and you're like, hey, Jesse, he was great, and then at 1.5 years, he's now dog reactive. Then I go, okay, well, now we got to work on that now. Does that make sense?
Needs therapy.
Kind of, in my opinion, he needs discipline, but
yeah.
But that's like, I've built my career on, yes, helping people and educating people so we don't get that. But as I've also had clients whose dogs been attacked by off-leash dogs, and then come back to me, they're like, hey, Jesse, like, this happened. And I go, I'm sorry to hear that happened, but there's nothing that we can do, right? Mm-hmm. It happened. This is what your dog is now. This is what we're going to do to address it. Okay. And I get other dogs. Last year I had about 5 dogs, at least 5 dogs that did training with me that were attacked by off-leash dogs multiple times. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it gave the owner anxiety every time they saw a dog, because they're like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. Right. And then the dog became super dog reactive. Right. Because the dog was anticipating a threat every time they would see a dog, because they got attacked so many times, So it's partially working with the dog and, like, for the situation, because if there's a dog fight, what we tend to do is separate and the dogs stay agitated. Okay. So when you pull the dog away, the last thing they remember was, I saw that dog and I just wanted to go after him. So when they see him again, boom, they go straight back to that. Or when they see another dog, they have that residual, they jump straight to it. When we have, or if we were to have a dog fight, we stop it, we de-escalate it, and the dogs continue to coexist. Okay, so the last thing they remembered was, we got in a scuffle, Jesse came in and disciplined us, and then we have to sit next to each other for another hour and coexist. So when we bring them back, they're coming back to that. So, but most people tend to separate when a dog fight happens and pull away. Okay, and that's technically incorrect. But if you're at a dog park, obviously you have very few options. So I'm not a big fan of dog parks because of so many variables. People do bring dogs that shouldn't be at dog parks. I had a client who took their dog to a dog park in River North area, and 2 times the dog got attacked by another dog at the dog park, and the other owner just took the dog and left, didn't say anything. Like full on, like go to the vet, punctures type of attack. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not trying to scare you, but that's just the reality of.
No, we know that's possible. Juices in.
So dog parks, it's kind of like, it's a pro because you get to socialize Hank, but it's a con because sometimes like you don't know how another dog might correct Hank. They might go overboard, or another dog that shouldn't be there is there. Other questions?
No, that's very helpful because we essentially, I mean, he is a pit, so I don't want him to be like a menace. And I know there's lots of people who are like afraid of pits, and we just don't want, anything. It seems like anything he did wrong would be far more punishable than like a Labradoodle. So, like I think he needs to be good.
Yeah, I have a pit bull too. I've had her since she was 3 months. She's 9 years old now. Mm-hmm. And the way she's like a gladiator when she plays. She's very tanky. She likes to show her teeth and stuff, but she's not aggressive. Right. She just plays a little bit heavier. But you can see, like I can see other dog owners, and they're just like, and I'm just like, this is normal. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, I was talking to a guy at the dog park the other day who has a mix that's not a pit, but he looks a little bit like a pit. And he said, yeah, nobody else wants to play with him because they're scared of him.
Yeah.
And like right now, people play with Hank because he's a puppy and he can't really do anything. I bet he has a good temperament. He needs to listen a little bit better, and we just want him to be kind of on the right track. How much is like the e-collar? I know the website said you had to buy those. I didn't.
One that I would recommend for Hank is around $327-ish with tax. So it's pricey, but like I've had mine 8-9 years. You'll find cheaper ones for like $30 and $80 or whatever. Those are not the same. Okay. They're terrible quality. You don't want to use them. Okay. If I see someone with them, I'll tell them return that. I'm not trading with that. It's garbage. You want to invest into a good quality collar, and it's one that he would grow into. Okay. So you're not going to buy a little one now while he's a puppy and a bigger one. You'll buy the one that he would need. He would grow into it. I could put that same collar that I would use for Hank on my Chihuahua and he'd be fine. Okay. It's more output, which means lower number in terms of when you're training. Okay. When it comes to like, is this going to change his personality or anything like that? It's not going to change his personality. Hank's going to be Hank. It's just when you tell him to do something, he's going to listen.
We like his personality. He's got like a sweet temperament. So
yeah,
we're not too worried about. Yeah, we're not too worried about him being like I don't know. As of now, he's not aggressive, but he's got a sweet sort of loving side.
Sure. So it's not it alters personality in any way. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say. So I mean, the board and the puppy stuff sounds not exactly right. I mean, we do need some help walking on a leash and not pulling so much, but he is getting better with that. And as far as like accidents in the house, I mean, he doesn't pee in his crate. Like he stays in his crate. He cries when he's in his crate and we're not. We're sitting in the living room near the crate, and he got put in there. But I don't think he has too much separation anxiety. But I don't know about you.
Is he ever left alone? Like if you guys leave and he's in the crate by himself?
Yeah, the other dog usually sits in front of the crate. Will often sit in front of the crate, like in a dog bed. She's very subdued. She's very sweet, but so he's not. It doesn't seem like he cries a ton. Because if we leave the room and he doesn't know that we're like all hanging out without him, he doesn't cry as much. I just think he don't like feeling left out.
Yeah, well, he's not. Dogs are naturally denning animals, but a den they would go in and out of, right? But ours has a gate in front of it, so it creates a separation, and he doesn't have a choice but to not go out of there, right? But like mentally, he wants to be with you, but physically he can't because of that gate cover there. So that's where you get the whining, because there's a disconnect. Which is, how long have you had Hank since he was 2 months, or is he more recent?
Younger.
Yeah, we got him like at
He was really, really young.
4 weeks. We got him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on him. Typically, when puppies are obtained that young, there tend to be issues. It doesn't sound like there are for you, which is good. But just just keep an eye on his behavior and stuff. If you ever notice anything off, that's something you definitely want to make note of. But
what kind of stuff would be off?
Like, so for instance, I just had a consultation on Sunday. They got their puppy at 5 weeks, but right off the bat, the puppy was like growling at them for like touching them and all that stuff.
Oh.
Now he's 2 years old and he's muzzled like 95% of the time because they don't even trust him in the house. So I don't think you're going to have that problem because he's already 4.5 months. It would have been evident already, but you just want to keep an eye on things just in case. But I think you guys are for the most part in the clear. Other questions? So if you're doing just standard puppy training, okay, that would be Zoom with Maddie, food-based stuff. She'd help you with getting them on a potty schedule, because most dogs go about 3 times a day, before work, after work, before bed, right? And I always train all my dogs to that schedule, because most people tend to go by the puppy schedule. And if you keep them on the puppy schedule, like you have to take them out multiple times a day, right? And we want to put them on a frame where he can hold it and be loose, and not potty within the home. And then any real basic food-based training. Again, it's kindergarten stuff. It's nothing that's going to be amazing. Okay. The amazing stuff happens, in my opinion, at 6 months. You could definitely start now. It's just personal preference. I can train puppies as young as 2 months, but it's just the owner, right? How they think about the tool, or how they feel about the tool. Usually they're like, nah, right? So then at 6 months, typically puppies drive the owners crazy enough by that point where they're like, okay, we're ready for some discipline. Okay. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter if you at a year decided to work with Hank and say like, okay, we really need this training or whatever, or you start now, or you start at 6 months. But I only train one way because it's consistent. When I was talking to one of my clients, because he went through so many trainers, they were all food-based and stuff, and the dog was super anxious and not listening and just crazy and dog reactive and stuff. And I said, I look at my job as you're paying me for a result, right? If I pay my plumber to fix my clogged drain, I expect my drain to be fixed. If I pay an electrician to fix my wiring, I expect my wiring to be fixed. So if someone pays me to train their dog, they expect their dog to be trained, right? And I think there's too many excuses now for dogs because people don't understand what they're actually capable of. Where they're like, oh, it's just the dog, like this is the best it's going to be. I'm like, no, it can be better. It can be really, really good. It's just the methods don't get people that. So if we use food-based only, it's going to be the lowest ceiling, okay? Because if there's anything more rewarding, he's going to opt for that instead. Prong collar, much better, but you're limited to only on leash, okay? Because once you remove the leash, there's no means of reinforcement now. And the remote collar gets you on and off leash, no matter what the environment is, okay? You, of course, have to practice. You, of course, have to do your training and your homework and stuff. But it's the tool that's going to allow you to do that effectively and efficiently. And you just train as you go about your day with Hank. Whenever you walk him, you'll be doing training as you walk him. If you're watching TV and you're watching Netflix, Hank is right there laying at your feet for an hour or whatever, so that you could build him to the point where he could go to a restaurant with you and lay at your feet, and you're not worried about what is Hank doing. Is he wandering over here? Is he going over there? Because there's gonna be people, scents, dogs, food, all that stuff going on. And then of course with the recall, if you have a solid, foolproof recall, you can take Hank anywhere, right? Because you're not worried about, is he ever gonna not come back to me? No, he's gonna come back, and if he decides not to, I can make him. So in terms of more advanced training, Cost and length of time is simply how well trained of a dog do you want Hank to be. Okay. So if you're doing in person, so with me, I do all in person. Okay. Um, there's 6, 9, and 12-week programs. Think of and it's one class a week for an hour. Think of the 6-week as I walk my dog, we go to the dog park. The 9-week is walk my dog, go to the dog park, go to restaurants. And the 12-week is walk my dog, go to the dog park, go to restaurants, go hiking, go to the dog beach, go to the park. He's going to be in an unenclosed area. You know, it's like you do everything with your dog, and he's going to be exposed to environments where if something happened, he could potentially run away. Okay. That's where the 12-week program comes into play, because that's full off-leash reliability. Okay.
And that's a once a week
for an hour.
Like for 1 hour session.
Correct. And then you just go and you practice. Okay. Typically with the 12-week program, it's every day. It's not every day. It's once a week, right? But then once we get like class 9 or so, what we most likely do is start to space out the last classes. Okay. Because that's where you're going to start taking him outside, and he's running around, and you're going to be practicing and everything. And you're going to start getting used to utilizing your off-leash obedience. Okay. And is this the other one?
Yeah.
You're going to start utilizing your obedience and exposing Hank, and then learning where do we need improvement. Okay. So you could book it, you know, you have class 9, and then class 10, you book a month later, class 11, you book another month later, and class 12, you book 2 weeks later. You know, you're spacing them out to allow you time to practice, because if you're trying to build into off-leash reliability, you have to go outside.
Yeah.
You have to go to the park. So if you're only going to the park, you know, 2 times a week, if I'm seeing you every week, that's not enough time for you to practice and make mistakes and all that stuff. Okay. So typically by class 9, I've taught you all the commands. We're transitioning them to a long leash so you can start practicing outside. And then I go, okay, now take time and practice, and then come back and book your lessons as needed. And we tweak things as we go along. Okay. Questions about that?
Are these sessions one-on-one, or is this like with a whole bunch of dogs?
One-on-one. All my in-person is private.
Well, and then for the board and train we had thought about board and train just because like a Kickstarter. But for the e-collar, what are the kind of increments? Because I had just seen, I was like, oh, puppy, but I guess that's not entirely what we're looking at.
You could do you have 2 options. Okay. If you do a puppy, because Hank is under 6 months, so he qualifies for puppy board and train. Okay. Yeah. And we can do advanced methods with the puppy board and train. Okay. Meaning we can do prong and remote collar. That's what we did with Azula. She did puppy board. We actually have 2 of them. We have Azula and then Stella, but Stella's still here. So we train him to a high level, but it's going to be at a lower rate because he's a puppy. Okay. But you're going to get less follow-up. Okay. So with the puppy board and train, you would want to do at least a 3-week program. Okay. Because it's going to be 1 week for prong introduction, getting him over pressure. And then weeks 2 and 3, we start remote collar. Okay. Because we need at least 2 weeks to get a puppy or a dog over remote collar in terms of exposure. If we try to do it in a week, it's going to be half-assed. It's not going to be good. Okay. So like I have a puppy right now who's doing a board and train. They wanted to do e-collar, but they're only doing a week. And I said, we're not going to do e-collar. We can do prong because that's enough time for a prong. But unless you do 2 weeks to commit to the e-collar, we can't do it, because then your puppy's going to, what happens is the e-collar is a stressor because it's a level of discomfort because of the contraction. Is the puppy needs, or the dog needs, exposure, so they get stressed out and they come to like a threshold, right? And we want to get them over the threshold so they go like, oh, okay, like this is no big deal, right? But if we only bring them to here, that's where you're getting your puppy at, and it's hard for people to understand how to get them to this point unless they're doing it themselves. Okay, so if you're doing a puppy board and train, at least 3 weeks to do it correctly, which is 1 week of prong collar followed by 2 weeks of remote collar. Okay. or you can do a 4-week, which would be 1 week of prong with 3 weeks of remote collar. Okay. If you pay us for an adult board and train, it's the same kind of process, but you get more follow-up. Okay? Meaning you get like if you did, I don't know what the 4-week follow-up, you might get like 8 hours of follow-up as opposed to 4 hours of follow-up or whatever it is. Okay. But it's completely up to you. You can always purchase more classes in terms of if you're needing something or whatever. The other thing is with the board and trains, what we do is we record the first training session of everything that we teach. Okay? So for Hank's first week, you would the sit, the stay, the down, the come, the place, the heel, 6 commands. You would see us introduce him to the prong, and he might be resistant. You might hear him like, right. We work him through it. We feed him all that stuff, and you see the process. Okay. And we send you the video. It's about an hour to hour and a half. You would watch that video, and it kind of shows you this is how Hank is learning, and this is how he's progressing. On week 2, we transition to remote collar, and you're going to get a very much similar video, and you see the difference in how he's progressing and how he's advancing. And then week 3, you get another video where we're on the long leash now, because now we're trying to build Hank to a higher level of training. And then if you do a 4th week, then you see Hank over like at Horner Park or Oz Park, where we're utilizing the obedience in public so you can see it as a reference, right? So what happens is you watch your videos, and you can either do where you come in and you work with Hank, with myself or one of my trainers, and they work with you to start teaching you as Hank is learning, and you follow along, okay? Or you watch the videos, you don't do any follow-up, you pick up Hank, you do what you learned from the videos, okay? 2 weeks later, you're like, hey, we have some questions. Can we book a follow-up? We come in, where are you having problems? And we close the gap on where you're not getting the concepts, or maybe it's not transferring well with Hank, okay? So because the training videos are literally, it's like how we would train you to train Hank, but we're doing it, right? So you have a visual, you have an understanding, you can see the process, so you can take them and apply it, you know? And then if you have any issues, we come in and we help you fix it, or you just follow along and you come once a week, if possible, to check in on Hank and follow up with the training. But then you would be left with less follow-up after the program, right? Because it's a puppy program. So, you know, you have a couple of options there.
And how like long are y'all working with them each day during the board and train?
We train all day.
All day. Ooh.
Yeah. So, I mean, for puppies, we can't train all day,
Right.
But the way it works is, so for Azula, her schedule is we open at 7, we close at 10. We opened at 7, we took her out the potty, and then she starts her first training session of the day. Okay. And then once we teach duration work, which is go here and don't move for 2 hours, she would do her training, she'd get a potty break, she'd go to the placemat, she'd be there for 2 hours, she'd go potty, she'd go play for a little bit, she'd get another training session, go back to duration. Like, it's just all day, it's just routine, but she's getting time to decompress, or he's getting time to, or she was getting time to decompress, but also they get rest time in the kennel. Okay, so it's not a solid, what is that, like 15 hours of training? It's broken up and divided up. We apply the training throughout the day. So every time we handle Hank, even though he's not actively training, we're using it, right? As we go about the day in the facility. So it's also being reinforced. They also go on training walks. They go outside. Sometimes they go to Home Depot. Sometimes they go to PetSmart. And we're taking them out. We're training them out in public and stuff to start exposing them to distractions. And then if possible, we also make trips to Horner Park, and we take the board and trains to Horner Park, and we start working them out with like dogs and people and all that stuff. So again, expose them and teach them that the obedience is applicable even in that kind of setting. Okay.
And that's like a group training, like he'll have little friends in his class or whatever.
Yeah. As long as he's social.
Yeah.
We can, that's not a problem. When we get our antisocial dogs, you know, we do board and trains for that as well, but that's done differently. But if Hank is a social pup, he would get daycare time to play, time to play. He get time to rest in his kennel, so he's not, so he's not go all day. We treadmill train dogs too, so he'd most likely be able to do the treadmill. So it's structured exercise. The day here is
we have a treadmill here. He doesn't know how to do it, but
yeah,
that would work for us.
Yeah, we have like 4 or 5 treadmills here. I'm trying to get 8 in total.
Cool.
Yeah, so the dogs do treadmill. Depending on the weather, we may also start doing pack walks again, where we take all the dogs in a group walk. So it'll be like one handler with like 6 to 8 dogs, and we just go for a walk. And it's great socialization. It's great exposure, especially for puppies. Yeah, we do a lot of stuff here. We're not the average daycare.
Can we visit if he's gone for 3 weeks, we would miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. I always encourage people, they're more than welcome to visit their dogs. I understand he's gonna be gone for a period of time. Just when you come to visit him, okay, if you haven't watched the video or have not received the video or have not had a session with us, is don't expect him to listen to obedience, okay, because we have to transfer it to you. So a con of a board and train is the training is tied to us. We're doing all the work. That's why we do the video. So when you pick up Hank and you apply it, it starts to transfer. Or we do the follow-up where I work with you to show Hank, hey, this also applies to mom and dad. Okay. But you're welcome to come in. Now, let's say you've actually worked with us. So like for Azula, after she had her first session here, she came to visit her a couple of times and took her out on walks for training herself. I said, go ahead, and then if you do a training walk and you say like, hey, like he wasn't doing this, then we know, okay, cool, we need to work on this for you, right? But I encourage people, they're more than welcome to come visit their dog or puppy. You would just notify us and say like, hey, we're gonna come on Friday to take Hank for an hour. Is that okay? We say absolutely. What time? So we know what to have them ready for you. And then you can either be here in the puppy room and play with them, or you can take them out on a walk, spend some time with them at the park, whatever. I don't care. And then you bring them back, and then we continue training them.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Thank you. This was very, very helpful. Do we contact Maria for any?
For booking and stuff? Yep.
Yeah, decisions.
Correct.
Or the next puppy board and train, like when do you know when the next date is? I know it was like
ask Maria.
Okay.
I know we have 2 dogs or 3 dogs ending next week.
Okay.
Okay, so I know we're gonna have a couple spots opening up, but she would know that. And then if you want to get an idea of the puppy boarding train, you can go to my YouTube channel.
Okay.
And you can search Azula, Azula. Okay. And then you'll see her videos. Okay. Cool. And you'll just see, you can even watch her, I think it'd be titled week 1 video or whatever. It's the first one that's going to be up for her, to give you an idea of like the prong collar. And then you can see the next one for the e-collar and stuff. And then we did a special one with her because she had really good prey drive, is we have a flirt pole. So she was chasing after the flirt pole and like biting it and tugging on it and stuff. And we're doing that with her obedience. And and she's happy. She's having fun. People think that e-collar has to be mean and all that stuff. And that's not the case. Every dog is different. So like Azula was very good with taking pressure. She never shut down. She was a really good puppy. Hank, we might see a little bit of that, or we may not. But it's not that what we're doing, that's Hank. Okay. So, but as we work with him, we build the confidence. That's why I said we can't have him for just a week if we're doing e-collar. Like we need time so that we can get him over it. So when you get him, all that hard work's been done. You're just kind of picking up and reinforcing everything we taught him.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Oh, what's your YouTube channel?
If you
so
it's not my name, but if you look up, if you go to my website, canineperspective.com, and you click on any video, it should take you to my YouTube channel.
Okay.
And from there you can search it, because when I made my YouTube, I put it under my name, and YouTube won't let me change it. So yeah. But it's easiest if you just go to my website and click on the video. It'll take you to my YouTube, and then you just search Azula, and then you'll see her videos there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. If you have any other questions, let us know. Otherwise, Rio will get in contact with you. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.